Even it's a busy day for you, and at least a busy week. You've got matches on today that I'm sure you want to be watching. Can you bring us up to date with where you are in terms of injuries, who's in, who's out, etc.?
Yeah. I think you're right. It is a busy day. I think, yesterday we felt today would be busier in terms of more players playing. But yesterday there was a lot of phone calls. Yesterday, the type of phone calls that you don't welcome. But I think. Probably in relation to 5 players, and I think, but overall, I think, hopefully a few will be okay, and obviously a couple have pulled out of the squad, to no fault of their own, just unfortunate injuries. We've had Darragh Lenihan, of course, who got injured in training, a knee injury with Blackburn, and missed the game yesterday, so he's had to pull out. And obviously we got not great news probably in relation to Seamus Coleman yesterday, because obviously I was watching the game and immediately, I knew when I seen him when he's chasing Aaron Connolly at the time actually, and just pulled up. So he seems to have a hamstring strain that will most likely rule him out. So
is he coming over to be assessed?
We'll have to see on that, and I think the scan has revealed that he'll probably be most likely out, So I think the situation also, Harry Arter, we're waiting to see on Harry Arter how he is. He came off yesterday with a slight thigh issue, so we'll see how that goes as well.
And is there anyone else?
Everyone else is they're the only ones that can sort of speak about at the moment.
I was at Tala on Friday, and Jack Byrne came off as well. Is there anything?
No, I believe he's okay. He just a knock. He's okay.
So you've got to play the waiting game for the rest of the day today?
Listen, that's the way it is, and I think we've got a good squad, and I think it's disappointing, obviously, in relation to our captain James Coleman. He's obviously in brilliant form in the last few weeks particularly, and was playing very, very well yesterday, so he's having an exceptional game really yesterday. So it was just one of those situations, nothing we can do about that, and we just have to adapt and get ready for Slovakia, make sure we're right. Hopefully today is a little bit that we get good news today in relation to a lot of the players, and that they come in ready to go tonight.
It's unfortunate for Seamus and for Ireland, but in some ways it does solve one of your big selection dilemmas, assuming and hoping that Matt Doherty is going to be all right.
Well, that never concerns me, having a dilemma. I think that never concerns me. I think we can never have enough good players. We don't have that problem in every position. That's a problem we would like, and certainly there's a strong consideration to consider both in the team for sure, and I think but that's obviously not available now.
Now for the opposition, obviously you've done your homework and looked at them, and Hamzik coming back, he's not going to come all the way back without starting, you'd imagine, if he's fit. So who's he going to put out of their midfield, do you think? Do you think they're going to line up now with himself, Lobotka and Kuka?
Yeah, well, it's been very consistent in the campaign, and I think you've no way known for certain with any team and how people are and so forth, and we see that ourselves. But they've been very consistent, obviously very experienced midfield, and that's been mainly their three. Their lineup has been quite consistent, and I think that's you would think that would be the case.
And how does that affect your thinking in terms of who you were going to pick? Because that was the one area that you changed over the 2 games the last.
Yeah. I think listen, it's great that players have been on a positive side. It's great that players have been playing minutes. James McCarthy again playing yesterday, so he's played quite a few games since the last window. Jeff Hendrick has played every week for Newcastle. Conor Hurlahan has been playing every week for Aston Villa, and we have obviously Robbie Brady available, obviously after his injury, and we'll see how Harry Arter is. So there have been some pluses in that regard.
Thank you.
Sinead?
Stephen, were you talking to Seamus yourself?
Yeah.
How did that conversation go?
It's just a private conversation, Sinead, you know, so he was just disappointed, you know. He loves his country, loves playing for his country. Very passionate Irishman, very passionate captain, and you know, I think he knows that's an important game, and he doesn't want to miss out on it.
So as it stands, even if he is ruled out, will he still travel or come over, do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, that has to be considered, and there's a lot of factors involved in that.
You said after the last game that you're not wedded to any particular system, so obviously what will the approach be for this for Thursday's game?
Yeah, well, I think you know, it's a tough game. We've got to go away to Slovakia. They've obviously good home form and very consistent team and experienced team, but the other side of it is it's a tremendous opportunity for us, and we know the opportunity that does exist, and the possibility of the European Championships in Ireland is unique, really. It's never happened before, may never happen again, we don't know. So it's so I think that's like that kind of motivation to sort of lift the country. Like it would be an incredible experience for the whole country. So we're a long way away from that, because we've got a tough game in Slovakia, and that's only a semi-final. So we're a long way away from that, and I think we've got to do something extraordinary and win away from home again, and we'll be planning with everything we have to try and achieve that.
Would it be, to use that terrible phrase, a horses for courses type approach and selection?
No, I don't. You know, I know what you mean. You have to adapt your team to certain situations, and I do accept that point. But you know, we'll approach the game in a positive frame of mind, and you know, we won't be. We're unlikely to be cautious. You know, I would say that.
Stephen, will there be any more call-ups then?
There will, yeah. We've called up Kevin Long. Okay, so Kevin Long is can consider himself probably rather unfortunate not to be included in the first place, I would say, and he's been very playing regularly in the Premier League, and he's played for Ireland, has good experience, so we're delighted to have Kevin in the squad, and we will assess everything else and make one or two calls maybe later this evening.
Shane Duffy, gather, steps in as captain with Seamus out. What have you made of his performances since moving to Celtic?
Right, I think the good thing for Shane is a lot of games. You know, he's had a game every 3 or 4 days, and he's not had that for a long time. So certainly he, that's a positive, I would say. I think they've had games in the Europa League, and they played against Sarajevo the other night, so they've managed to qualify for the group stages. He's been a part of that. They've kept clean sheets, and I think the more football he plays, the better he'll be. I think that's playing regularly is what he needs, and I think that can only be a good thing for him, I feel.
Would you apply that to the whole team? Because it did look as if players were getting sluggish in the last couple of games towards the end of the match. Would you expect performance against Slovakia to be an awful lot better and much sharper because of the games the players have played since? Yeah,
well, obviously we finished the game very strong against Bulgaria, and I think obviously we scored late, and we had the majority of that game. We were in the ascendancy for the majority of that game, bar some sort of counter-attacks. Against Finland, we tired for certain in the last 20 minutes in that midfield area, and it was just because it was in the pre-season. Players hadn't played games, and and throughout we probably faded in that game against Finland in the last quarter for sure. I think that was certainly a pre-season mode, but a lot of the players have played a lot of games, since then, and I don't see that as a factor at all.
I'll just ask you about Jack Byrne. I suppose he got the ultimate test for this kind of level of football against AC Milan. I know you were there with Keith Andrews. What did you make of that performance, and would it give you hope that he is ready for a game like this if you were to throw him in either from the start or at some stage?
Yeah, I suppose Jack has a lot of different qualities than other players have. We have sort of athletic midfield players with different players that are comfortable playing deeper in midfield. Jack probably offers an alternative to that, and that quite creative player, plays high in midfield and has a great range of passing. And I think he's been playing well for a while now, and he's certainly an addition to the squad.
Do you think there might be in a game like that against Milan, where times where his lack of physicality maybe went against him, and he kind of gets, maybe not protecting the ball as much as he'd like to see at that level?
Not protecting the ball, he's tremendous at protecting the ball. I get your point that physically you can only be who you are. You can't be something you're not, like. But I think I thought he played very well, and he's backed that up with a couple of good performances as well in recent weeks. So he'll certainly be an addition to us.
Thanks, Stephen. Gavin.
Stephen, are you calling someone up to replace Seamus, or is there a call yet to be made on that?
Yeah, I'll make a call on that later on. Yeah. So I will be indeed.
We'll see someone called up.
Yeah.
We'll issue an update this evening after.
Yeah.
Well, we have to just clear everything first with the club and with the players in question. So we just have to confirm everything first.
You said that you'd achieve something.
Because we've only really had the news on Seamus' results of a scan. That's why I was sort of a bit delayed getting here. We've only really had that,
Yeah.
He had a scan this morning, and we only really had that there, So I think we just had to. So obviously, it wasn't unexpected. So we have a plan, but we just have to communicate everything properly before we can announce it.
Yeah, you mentioned, you described a win in Slovakia as would be something extraordinary. How do you give the players the belief that they can go and do it? Or do you have to?
Well, I think that sorry, just a second. Hi. Just my asthma. Apologies for that. You listen. It's a great opportunity to play Slovakia. I think this game has been spoken about for a long time now, and I think it'll be great. It actually the players will look forward to playing in it. The games in the Nations League, where we had an opportunity to look at increasing our options in the forward areas, increasing the options in the midfield areas, and see what worked and didn't work. And we got a lot of positives from some of the things we worked on. Some areas that we definitely need to improve on, and I think this is a great game that everyone is really looking forward to. It's an incredible, it's a great opportunity, and I think the players themselves realise that. I think Slovakia will be highly motivated, of course. They're at home, and I think that there'll be an expectation there because they're home, and but I think from our point of view, we'll make sure that we're very, very well prepared, and that we're that we'll be ready to go.
The fact, it's been a while since this group of players won a major game, competitive game away from home. It's probably the Wales game 3 years ago now. The fact that we haven't done it in a while, is that a concern for you at all?
It's not a concern for me, but there's nothing we can do about that. We can only approach it on its, on the game itself, on its merits. I don't think we can be preoccupied with. We can't hide from the fact that, and there must be a reason. And so we've got to be positive in our approach and not reactive. You know, I think we've got to absolutely be positive in our approach, and I think you know, it is significant that we've not won many away games against significant nations in many years, and we've got to change that and try and address that and try and get that victory.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the press earlier this week that Slovakia had a lot of ball against Wales and against Hungary. Are you anticipating the same, and you might get a little bit more space of playing the counter attack relative to how it was in Bulgaria, or are you very much approaching it similar scenario?
I don't see it as similar as Bulgaria. Bulgaria would adopt more of the counter-attacking approach. I see Slovakia as predominantly a possession-based team. We like to control games themselves, so that would be quite intriguing, really. And I think it would be two teams that will try and win the game. You know, so I think it'll be an intriguing tactical battle in that regard.
Steve, you spoke before about this week about the Sunday games and Monday being effectively written off preparation-wise, Tuesday training. Just in terms of momentum for a team, which is always very important, and irrespective of the results for the last window, do you think you built a strong platform for the players to sort of hit the ground running when you hit training this week and in the build-up, a very short build-up to this game?
Just give me the question.
Yeah, just do you feel like that the squad will come in, I suppose, and just completely ready to go with training and the build-up for what is a short build-up for this game?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. It is a short build-up, and that's the nature of it. And listen, sometimes one or two players are playing in on the games on Sunday. We're unusual that we've 11 players involved today, and I think that's Conor, for example, his match doesn't kick off till 7:15 tonight for Aston Villa, so that's quite unusual. I think tomorrow and Monday becomes training day, very staggered with players. Some of the players who played Saturday, and a couple of players who haven't played it much at all, and then all of the players have played. So Tuesday becomes a critical training day for us, you know, in relation to, and we fly of course on Tuesday. So it's you're right, there's not much time to prepare, but that's not an excuse. We need to adapt, and that's the situation we're in. We're not complaining about that. That's where we are. We have to adapt, and I think we have to do on the, you know, in the meeting rooms and analysis, you know, and we speak to people individually on some of the roles and so forth. So I think you know, we'll have clear instruction, and there will be no grey areas in relation to what's expected of anyone. And I think so. You're right, there are challenges, but that's one we have to adapt, and I think that's we will adapt.
One thing you spoke about at the last window was the lack of cohesion to a certain extent in the defence. Seamus is a natural leader, essentially out of this one now. And in the Finland game, in the empty stadium, Darren Randolph's voice probably sounded like the loudest voice from the back unit. Would you like your defence to be a bit more vocal and offer a bit more leadership, or is that just a each individual sort of the way they play the game?
No, listen, I think I don't necessarily think we have to be more vocal. No, I don't see that as an issue at all. I think we've got a lot of experience in the back four, and as you say, with Darren Randolph in goal. So I don't really see that as an issue. You know, I think we just have to make sure that we're not caught square, you know, as we were for once or twice in the games, and make sure that we have ample cover. And I think that's something that we have to get right.
And then just for me, just to build it up to what is essentially a good final this week, how important is, I suppose, bravery for your own perspective from your senior players and essentially your goal scoring threats this week? You know, is that sort of a big, would that be a theme of the week to build towards, of being brave?
I don't know. Like I'm not. It's not something I'm essentially focusing on like that. I think you know, I've no problems with the, you know, the moral fibre or the courage of the players. You know, they love playing for the country. They're very, very determined. They're proud Irishmen. They play for the national team is the pinnacle of their career. I think I see the point you're making. You're more about accepting responsibility on the pitch, and I get that. I see leadership in the group. We have enough experience ourselves, so I don't see that as a factor, and I think we'll be fine in relation to all of that.
We're just going to go to Ken and then Daniel, and then we have to wrap it up. So Ken.
You mentioned though, Slovakia at home. Is that still an advantage in an empty stadium?
I think Ken, we're still learning about that. I think we can't say great. I think we'd all rather be at home than away, regardless. I think that's for sure. People are happier with their familiar surroundings, but and not having to travel and in their familiar environment. I think that has to be a plus. But you're right. Not having a passionate support does mitigate that somewhat, and that must be considered also. So I think that's a fair point.
Well, what are your impressions about whether the fact that football's being played in empty stadiums now has had on the actual football? Like, you can see in the Premier League, I think they've had record goal scoring weekends, or like more goals scored in a weekend than before, this sort of thing. Like, have you noticed any effect on the way the game is played from the fact that there's no crowd?
Again, that's a quite a deep question, and I think it's that's a sort of an overview of football throughout Europe. Has it changed statistically? They say that there's more goals scored. If so, why is that so? I think that's interesting as a viewpoint, and how will that affect us? I suppose what I think of. My opinion of that as a whole is irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? It's the only important thing is that how will that affect us? I think it becomes relevant, and I think it doesn't really change us. We still it's our ambition to try and control the game, and that's what we will do. Slovakia have other ideas. In most of their games, they've had 60-65% possession, so that would be a challenge in itself. Does the crowd affect the defending? Or affect the striker finishing in an empty stadium? I suppose those things are difficult to quantify, and but I'm not really focusing on that. I'm just thinking that we've a job to do. We know the opposition; they're a very good team. We're going to have to be exceptional ourselves, and I think we're just really focused on that. I think other factors we don't want them to sort of permeate the way we're thinking or sort of infiltrate sort of our thought process going into the game. We want to sort of just focus on the jobs that we have to do, and hopefully we can do that.
Okay, just a quick one from McDara and then Daniel, and then we're out. So thank you.
Stephen, one-legged tie. You don't have much time to mention on the pitch, but will penalties be coming into your training during a couple of sessions? Will you be getting players to have a penalty shooter?
It's something that we have to consider for sure. Yeah.
I'm just reflecting on Thursday night. You're all Dublin qualified for the Europa League. How important do you think that is for Irish football and for the League of Ireland following in your team's footsteps?
Yeah, it's great. It's great news, really. I think I'm absolutely thrilled for the players because they've had a tough season because of COVID, of course, and games behind closed doors, and the league being cancelled, the league being shortened then for a very small number of games this year because of the season, and that's affected them. So many of them out of contract, and the uncertainty around that. So for them to get to the group stages is absolutely brilliant, and that was the ambition, and of the club, and that's been important for their seeding over the last number of years has helped, and I think the players did fantastically well to get through, and they've a great group to look forward to now, and I wish them well.
Last one, Daniel.
We spoke to you last week about Seamus Coleman. You made a reference to a leadership group. I don't know, were you speaking generally, or do you actually have like a leadership group that you are interacting with as a management
team? I think to be honest, it's interesting, like, because the majority of the players are between the ages of probably 28 and 32, you know, so we have a lot of experience in the group, and so I don't see leadership as a problem. But we need to obviously assume responsibility in the different departments, and it's very important in the game. But I don't see that as a problem. I see actually as having a lot of potential there. You know, a lot of players who can really grasp that, and that's playoff is the opportunity to show what you've got, for sure.
But is there like a small group of players that you're dealing with on certain issues? You know?
No, there isn't at the moment. No.
Yeah. Can I just ask about Callum O'Dowda, who was back on the bench yesterday? Somebody started in the games. Is that enough for him to be in your thinking, given he hasn't played?
I think everyone is in our thinking, and I think Callum obviously is a very fit player. His fitness levels are very high. He had a groin issue in the game against Finland. He's had a full week's training. You know, Bristol City have been going really well. They're winning the league, and they didn't change the team, and that's perfectly understandable. I think he's been, you know, trained a full week, and he'll get a few days training now with us. So I'm sure he'll be in consideration. Yeah, absolutely.
Just last one, so with Aaron Connolly, are you set on him being sort of the left of the front three? Obviously, I know he plays a different system at his club, but are you open to playing him in another position, or do you very much see him as a left of the front three?
No, I'm open to quite a few things, and I think you know, I think, you know, he essentially he's a centre forward. He's grown up as a centre forward, and I'm sure that's where he sees himself. And I think you know, you know, I'm certainly not questioning that. That's where he scored his goals. I think he played on the left wing for the under-21 team with great success, because we had quite a few centre forwards, and we're trying to accommodate players. And I think pace is important in international football, and Ireland has that, and that's a great asset to us. We want to, you know, that's important. I've played him on the right, I've played him on the left, and I've played him as centre forward. So when he's playing in a wider area, he's happier coming off the left than the right. But I think long term, you know, most likely will be a centre forward, Aaron, for sure. But we've got to maximise the talent that we have in the team, and that's what we look at, you know.